The text came in at 10:30 p.m. Can I tell you about my CPE site? My friend wrote. Now, CPE is the hospital chaplaincy internship required of all Unitarian Universalist seminarians. This was the summer of 2020, during the height of the pandemic. Finding a hospital willing to offer CPE at that time was difficult. And you will recall that everyone in healthcare settings was overburdened and experiencing fear for themselves as well as those in their care. Of course, I was willing to listen to my classmates' experience. I expected to hear about the challenges of serving at the hospital during COVID, but my friend's story was more personal. She was the only Unitarian Universalist in her cohort of interns. And they were all various types of Christians, as was their chaplain supervisor. Most of them were overtly homophobic, some of them hostilely so. And my friend is a lesbian. This is exhausting, she wrote. These are supposed to be the people I learn from and with about how to meet patients where they are and honor the fullness of their humanity. And instead, I have to fight to be seen as a whole person with worth and dignity. I'm already so tired, and we're only 2 weeks in. So I affirmed the awfulness of this situation, the injustice of it all, and typed, "How can I support you?" It helps just knowing that I can talk to you and that you understand that this is not right. I read that, and feeling like I had already met those requirements, I began to type a number of suggestions as to how my friend could go over her supervisor's head to file a complaint, how she could reach out to the UUA and to our seminary to put this program on a list of programs that are unfriendly or unsafe to LGBTQ seminarians, or how she could confront the supervisor and educate her cohort. And then I reread her answer to my question. Just knowing that I can talk to you and that you understand that this is not right. I backspaced through my extensive list of unsolicited suggestions and typed, "It isn't right. I hear you. I believe you, and I'm here for you." More than one thing can be true at the same time. If I had been in her place, I would have wanted active suggestions. And the actions I had suggested weren't in themselves bad ones, but this was not about me or how I would handle a similar situation. My friend was determined to graduate as scheduled, and that meant completing CPE that summer. There was no option to switch programs. She just needed outside support and the opportunity to vent her frustration. And I was actually honored to be the person that she reached out to. Our faith is a faith of relationships. We organize ourselves around covenants, sacred agreements of how we intend to treat one another, to take care of each other. We don't all agree on the nature of the divine or what happens after we die, but we all recognize that something sacred is present when we gather, when we share the truth of our hearts with one another. We experience our connection to the web of all existence through time and nature, through worship, and in the spiritual intimacy of heart-to-heart sharing. And the nature of these relationships ebbs and flows. Often we are co-travelers, giving and taking, sharing and receiving in turn, exploring our lives and learning of each other's lives in easy companionship. And at other times, one of our loved ones bumps up against something extremely challenging: a job loss, the realization that a long hoped for opportunity is not going to materialize, a chronic or terminal diagnosis, a divorce, a death. I'm sure that you can think of others. It is a gift to be able to support and care for our friends in times like these. That doesn't mean we know what to do or not do, what to say or not to say. We're not a society that tackles big, overwhelming feelings easily. We want to fix. We want to solve. We reach for whatever modicum of control may be available. And yes, there is a place for those things. But fixing, solving, and controlling are not the same as comforting. Kate Bowler is a professor at Duke Divinity School. When she was in her early 30s and the mother of a 2-year-old, she was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. She was rushed to surgery the very next day and spent the next 2 years undergoing treatments with a very poor prognosis. In her book, Everything Happens for a Reason and Other Lies I've Loved, she writes about her friends and family and the different ways that they showed up for her during her recovery. She describes some friends who were determined to control the outcome, doing their own research on healing food plans, cooking her food she could not eat, shipping her supplements from across the country, never asking which treatments she and the experts she was working with had chosen. Control is a drug, she writes, and we are all addicted. In loving detail, she describes friends and colleagues who spent time with her, asking how they could be of service, listening to her hopes and her fears, crying alongside her, holding her hand, being a part of her surrender to the treatment process, and sitting with the understanding that although there were choices to be made, the outcome was uncertain. They honored her inherent worth and dignity, her bodily autonomy, and her personal sovereignty. Writing after a full recovery, Bowler ends her book with an appendix full of things to say and not say. On the plus side, she lists making specific offers of help and allowing the affected person to respond in their own time. I'd like to bring you a meal this week. Can I email you about it? In person, she suggests phrases such as, "Oh, my friend, that sounds so hard. I'm so grateful to know how you are doing. Please know that I'm on your team. Can I give you a hug?" And of course, silence. Just a willingness to be present and not make the affected person have to put into words how they are feeling. On her list of things never to say is any sentence that starts with, "well, at least." Somehow minimizing or comparing the struggle is never helpful. Also unwelcome are, "I promise it's going to be okay," Everything happens for a reason, and maybe God needs another angel. That last one, she points out, either angers the person who doesn't believe in God or tells the faithful that God is somehow sadistic and needy. It's not helpful either way. As Unitarian Universalists, we often speak about the fact that whether there's a God or not, we are love's hands and feet on this earth. We are called to take action when we see injustice, and we strive to bring more compassion and care into the world. And often those are big, brave, bold actions. But being with a friend who is not sure what life will look like after their divorce is also an answer to that call. It's on a smaller scale. It's more intimate. To travel with a loved one in moments like these is to enter into their pain, their discomfort, and their fear. It often evokes our own fears, fear of saying the wrong thing, of not knowing what to say, or not feeling qualified to help. And so sometimes our perfectionism gets the best of us, and we don't reach out at all. Psychologist Kelsey Crow and artist Emily McDowell address this dilemma in their book, There Is No Good Card for This. The slogans they offer are simple but very helpful, beginning with, your kindness is your credential. We are indeed qualified to care for our loved ones specifically because we care for them already. We don't have to know what is needed before we reach out. And it's okay to say, I can't possibly understand what you're going through, but I'm here to support you. What can I do? Crow and McDowell offer two other phrases. Listening speaks volumes, and small gestures make a big difference. Embodying our love means showing up for each other, being present to one another. Even if it's phone present or Zoom present or text present, we just need to listen. We honor what our friends are willing to share with us. We hold their stories in whatever confidentiality they need to feel safe. And while holding our own healthy boundaries, we offer the specific support that they request of us. Listening speaks volumes. Small gestures make a big difference. And it may not feel like enough. We may encounter our own fear as we watched a loved one struggle with their mental health or succumb to addiction or lose the battle with their illness. The feeling may become so big that we want to pull away, or we may feel safer offering assuring platitudes as much for ourselves as for our friends. But I tell you, the web is bigger than that. It holds all of us. When we as caregivers are overwhelmed, we can reach out for strength and support from our other connections who are farther away from the darkness at hand. And their care for us can allow us to remain present. Life is uncertain and complex. That's not just a fact, it's a spiritual truth. We are not meant to do it alone. We need each other. Sometimes giving, sometimes receiving, always loving. May we continue to accompany each other through the dark night. Blessed be, and amen.